whenever you see closed positions, the first thing is you have to apply scanning technique. Now, what is scanning technique? It's nothing but you divide the board into 4 fragments. One is king, other is pieces, other is pawn, and other is holes. Which piece needs improvement? What about king safety? Which pawn is weak? What are the holes in the position? So by scanning technique, you'll be able to understand in which direction you have to focus. Now, this is what you should always do in closed positions. Anyone can tell me how to identify whether a position is closed or open? What are the things that make a position closed? Who can tell me that?
So I can take a shot, a symmetrical pawn structure.
Symmetrical pawn structure doesn't necessarily mean closed position.
Or maybe like pawns in the center.
Pawns are in the center from both sides.
You don't have enough pawn breaks. There are no
Yes.
pawn breaks in the
Sir,
position.
less space.
No, pawn break is one of the ways to identify open or closed position. In
Sir,
closed
less
position,
space.
what space?
Less space.
Again, in space, we can again not say whether the position is closed or open. Space can be one, like, but mainly you should see that if there is no pawn break in a position, if the pawns are not challenging each other, then usually the position is closed. So how to identify closed positions? No pawn break should be there. Ideally, okay. Now, in some cases, pawn breaks are there, even then we treat them as closed positions. So, this is like ideal case that in closed positions, pawn breaks are not applicable. Now, in any position, whenever you see any position, you should do scanning technique. Very quickly, you should try to break down the position into 4 fragments: king, pawns, king, pieces, pawns, and holes, and identify what are the key nuances about the position. So here, regarding king safety, whose king is looking safer? Black.
I think black, yeah.
Yes. So black's king is looking safer, and white king is slightly not so safe because there's a hole present on h3, f3. G2 is also slightly weak. So light squares are some problem for white. Okay. So we understood king safety. Black is fine. White is not super fine. Now, regarding pieces, now what is the black's most passive piece, which urgently needs
That's most.
improvement?
Eight rook. Eight rook.
8 rook. Knight. Where knight? Which knight? G6?
Yes.
Yes. So G6 is the right answer because this is only slightly passive. It is blocked by another piece. So it's only slightly passive. Knight is totally restricted. Whenever there's a knight on the G3 square or G6 square, and if the opponent has a pawn on G3, the knight doesn't have jumping squares. So the knight becomes totally passive. So now we realize that we have to improve the knight. Okay. So that is one understanding we got, that we have to do something with the knight. But we should not stop our scanning technique here. We should now quickly see that we have to work on knight improvement. But what about pawns? So we have to see where is the weakest pawn, which we want to attack later on. Where is potential weakness and actual weakness? So where is the weakness in pawns?
C2.
Yes.
C2 for white.
C2 will be actual weakness because it is a backward pawn for one reason. Now, regarding holes, so very quickly you have to find holes. Now, holes are potential weakness usually because you are not able to control or attack on holes right away, but they are kind of potential weakness. So very quickly, I'll show you the holes. Hole, 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 hole. So these are basically a couple of holes that we can see on the board, correct? So now we understood that by applying scanning technique, we understood we have to improve our knight. We have to attack C2 pawn, and we have to take advantage of moves like squares like E3, C3, A3, those kind of things. Okay, but you should not stop here. You should not directly start thinking that what should I play. Now remember, another thing you should do after scanning technique, apply prophylaxis. But this is very important. Now you should see, is white having any good plan? Is the opponent having any good plan? Only if the opponent doesn't have any specific plan that you can find it, then you should start with your improving pieces. But if the opponent has any plan that you can find it, then you should apply prophylaxis. Remember the 3 cases of prophylaxis? If opponent has a bad plan, let them play, apply drawback principle when the plan is played. If the opponent has a good plan, try to take preventive measure or try to stop that move. Okay. So first of all, we'll apply prophylaxis. Then after applying prophylaxis, if no clear plan is there, if no clear idea can be found from the opponent, then start improving pieces. Always do this, okay? So first of all, what is the thing? You have to identify what kind of position are you playing? Closed or open? You're playing closed position. So first of all, we did this. How did we identify closed position? Because no pawn break should be there. Then we should always do scanning technique. In scanning technique, it should take you less than 2 to 3 minutes to scan the whole board. Then once you've done scanning technique, you should not start playing. You should first of all apply prophylaxis and try to see, is there any clear idea from the opponent side? If you can find it, deal with it by prophylaxis. If there's no idea that you can find that is going to attack you or something, or maybe let opponent improve, then you can follow with improving pieces. So here, do you think opponent has any specific plan?
I was thinking that black has this plan of doubling their rooks, and then once it's time, then they can take a knight on c4 on c4.
How so? Like, what is the
Like
specific idea?
suppose they go a2, a2. We should play something like I don't know, probably b6, because that will help prevent the rooks doubling, and even if they take our knight, it's not going to matter much.
So even if they take the knight, the pawn can take, yeah?
Yes.
So
But if the point is that if you don't play a move like b6 and you play something else, then you're going to lose the bishop.
So how so?
Let's say they go rook to a2. Rook to a2, we go, just for example, we go something like h5. A2, they go rook to, rook to a1, and then the plan is kind of clear. But if you move your knight away, where are you going
No,
to
suppose
move?
I don't move my knight, I just play king f8. Now what?
King f8, then they take with the bishop.
Bishop takes knight.
Yeah.
So pawn takes.
One takes and double. Oh wait.
Queen and rook are still defending the bishop, yeah?
1, 2. Yes, it's double for double. Like there are two pieces attacking, two pieces. So it's again the same thing.
Yes. And
Right.
at any point of time, even if you try to double it up on the a file, whenever I want, I can play pawn b6, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe we have to not worry about that rook a2, rook a1. Anyone can see any other ideas that are there from white side? So that we have to apply prophylaxis. If there is no clear idea, then we will focus on our own plan, which is improving our piece.
So
Yeah.
I don't really think there isn't a clear idea.
You don't see there's a clear idea. Yes, okay. So there's always a possibility that it's not necessary that you have to always find the idea only. Most of the time, there's no clear plan. And if there's no clear plan, only then you should start playing improving pieces. There's no idea, clear-cut idea from white. So black improved the knight. Now, what can be one of the ways to improve the knight? Knight to?
Not knight to f6. I thought the pawn move f6.
Okay. Now, whenever someone, if you are thinking of any move, always see what is the drawback you are creating. So with pawn f6, the pawn was defending the knight. So bishop g6 is a drawback, and they will hit you with drawback. So pawn f6 is a blunder because bishop g6.
Is there a king's knight, right?
Yeah, because that is the knight which is restricted. Why?
Sir?
It is restricted because when a knight is on g6 square, and if the opponent is having a pawn on g3, it doesn't allow the knight to jump.
So
Yeah.
maybe you can maneuver the knight like knight f8, then d7, then we'll go to b6, somewhere like that.
b6 or c5, yeah. So that is what exactly
B6.
happened in the game. Black started with knight f8, pawn c3, knight d7, rook a2. Now we have already seen the idea of rook a2, rook a1, so we are not afraid of that, right? Because we can play b6 whenever you want. Knight c5, attacking queen, bishop c5, queen c5. White played knight d4. Why knight d4? White applied prophylaxis. Okay. Now, if they go rook a1, this is what I'm trying to teach you. If they want to go rook a1, they're missing something. What can black play? We talked about weak squares as well. So now how can we take advantage?
b6.
Sorry?
So pawn b6.
Pawn b6, okay. That is kind of defending. You're trying to defend yourself, rather trying to think of attack. So listen very carefully. When we were doing scanning technique, we understood where were the weaknesses, like holes and pawns, right? So we see that e3 was a hole. And play queen e3. And now knight is hanging, bishop is hanging. Bishop e2. And now what can we do? We can possibly try to.
What about instead of bishop to e2, they go knight to e1?
Knight e1. Okay, knight e1
It's mate. No, it's not.
can be played. The question is, don't I have something like, I guess, let's see. Okay, maybe bishop b6 is one way. Why? Threatening mate. And how will you protect now? How will you stop the checkmate? If you go something like rook here, then what is the drawback? Okay, one. Position will fall apart. Yeah, very quickly. Okay, so here, after queen c5, it's important to play knight d4. It is a prophylactic idea to stop queen e3. Understanding all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, black played bishop b6. Why bishop b6? Because black wants to improve the rook. When a piece is blocked by another piece, it is slightly passive. Not too much passive, but slightly passive. Also now, rook a1 idea is also taken care of. So, white played queen to b1. Now again, how should we further improve? We understood that c3 pawn is weak. So in the scanning technique, we realized e3 was a hole. These were holes, and this is weak. So again, how can we start putting pressure? Come on. So you have to clear the space. To start putting pressure, you have to kind of clear the space. Black played knight e3. Now there's a very specific idea. Suppose if I make a bad move, just to show you a bad move, just to make a deliberate bad move, so that I pass the move. If I make a move like queen to b2, something like that. Now here, black can win the game on spot. Now this is where you have to be very alert tactically. You have to be alert tactically. So the way black can win the game on spot. So when we improve our pieces, we have to always be careful of tactics.
Yes.
So I think I got it.
Lucky A took takes.
Yeah. Okay, to queen a2 now.
And then
Queen takes
queen to
d4. Queen takes d4, and then rook
d4 and checkmate.
Yeah.
Very good.
If they don't take, we're up a knight and we'll win.
So this is where you have to be very alert tactically, okay? So that is why after knight e3, they cannot play a random move because we are threatening a very strong move, rook a2, and then we are threatening queen d4. So they played rook to e2, attacking our knight. Now, I want to say one thing, so listen very carefully. when someone attacks you, what intermediate players, what they do if they are attacked, they try to take they play passive defense. They try to either move the knight back or try to add one more defender on the knight. But what players at higher level, strong players, what they do, and this is what creates small difference in the gameplay, that instead of directly defending the knight, they will create a counter attack on something else. They'll create a counter threat. So that's way, like in that way, by creating a counter threat, they are actively defending the knight. They're not defending the knight directly by moving the knight back, because where will you move the knight back? If you go knight g4, you have to worry about h3. If you go knight c4, then you're kind of repeating, wasting time. Knight f5 is not looking good. You'll be losing a pawn. So here, white played the move rook to e2. The drawback is white left the control of the a file. And remember, in the scanning technique, we were analyzing that a3 was a hole. Queen a3. Now the idea is, again, same point. If rook e3, then bishop d4. Pawn cannot take because rook c1. So black got the piece back. At the same time, now black is getting the pawn. So you can go something like here, here, here. Pawn up. Also passed pawn. Okay, now only mistake is this, because the bishop h7, queen is gone. But bishop c3 is fine. Okay, so after queen a3, they cannot directly take the knight because they'll be losing a pawn, and that too, black will be having a passed pawn. So white played knight b3. The knight b3 is again a defensive move because it is stopping queen c, rook c3 ideas, and all at the same time bishop to d4 ideas. But how is it helped black? Made the bishop slightly more active. Okay, now after knight to b3, you can see that knight cannot move. Why the knight cannot move? Because there will be some problem on c3. The queen cannot move because there's no safe square. And who else? Who else is there? So bishop can move possibly, but where? Again, it's a matter of question. Where will the bishop go? Because the bishop c2, rook c3 again. But maybe, okay, bishop c2, king f8, pawn g6, then rook c3. So here, once you realize that they don't have any specific plan, what should we do, guys? I've told it many times before. Whenever opponent doesn't have any specific plan, you should always improve pieces. So again, how can we kind of improve? What is the idea? You have to look for actual weakness. Yeah. So c3 is actual weakness. Those who are present on the Sunday class should understand actual weakness. c3 is actually weak. So what should black do? In order to improve the piece, at the same time, put pressure. Rook c7. Idea? Rook a c8.
C8.
h3. Now h3 is played. Why? Why h3 is played?
To prevent the knight from going to g4.
But knight anyway did not want to go to g4. Why h3 is played? Think, all of you think, and tell me why h3 is played.
Yeah, maybe to stop from a back rank. Actually, yeah, no, the back rank is already defended.
Back rank is already fine. See,
Back
I'll
rank
tell
mate.
you. Huh?
Back rank mate. Maybe.
No, back rank mate is
I
not
was
possible.
gonna say that, but the back rank's already super.
So always understand this. When opponent is kind of stuck, when opponent is in the defense, they will try to create counterplay. And most of the times, counterplay are created by pawn breaks. So the idea with h3 is to play
Maybe to
g4.
move rook h2.
Not directly rook h2. Rook h2 is a choice. To play g4 and at some point play f5.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now black. So this is a decent idea, right? First of all, black prevented it. So now this is prophylaxis. So again, remember in the Sunday class I told You should try to, first of all, if you see that operant has some plan, you should first of all prevent it. And then when operant cannot implement the plan, then you improve. You should see that if you have improved, and again, if you find that operant has a decent plan, again, stop, prevent it by applying prophylaxis. Again, operant will be stuck, then you improve. So here, after H5, they can do nothing. And we already have a very decent position. Are you guys able to understand this? Now rook C8 is coming and everything is coming. So after this, H4 here, rook C8. And now you can see the domination. Black is dominating the board. Yeah.